What's up, fight fans? Welcome back to the Split Decision Boxing Podcast. Back again with another banger. I am the TSD, Alyas Blanco here. I'm with my boy Nate Marrero. Nate, how are you today, man?
I'm doing good. I'm in Jacksonville visiting family and my dad right now, so that's why the background for you guys might look a little different. And I am very sleep deprived, so we're gonna see how this plays out.
Hey, man. Hey, we're just glad that you're here. And first and foremost, a solid weekend of boxing. Not gonna lie, it wasn't the
Mm.
sexiest weekend, but it was still a solid weekend.
Yeah, busy weekend. Yeah, and we also had that interview with Edgar Berlanga. That was pretty cool. That
Yeah,
was
that was a great oh my gosh. The fact that we didn't know until the day of if that was truly an interview with Edgar Berlanga was
yeah. We
kind
were
of
so
crazy.
ready to be catfished.
Oh yeah, we were ready. We were ready. I was waiting. I was preparing my reaction to what would happen if I saw a doppelganger.
Oh,
So
dude.
when I saw him in the green screen, I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is
Like,
really
oh my
happening."
god, that's really him. Oh my god.
Yeah, so before we get to all the weekend of boxing and all the action, obviously Friday night, the biggest news came out in boxing, and that's obviously, you know, the death of Big George Foreman. Again, very sad, very shocking, it came out of nowhere, it came out the blue. He died at 76 years old. I think it was natural causes. I'm not sure. I didn't look into it. I was pretty devastated. It was a terrible way to end my Friday night. But Nate, when you reflect on the life and legacy of Big George Foreman, what do you think about it?
I mean, you're talking about like one of the most, I wouldn't say polarized, definitely like quite literally like one of the biggest figures in boxing. And just, for what he in the 70s, like, the fight, the Rumble in the Jungle against Muhammad Ali, first guy to knock out Joe Frazier, and just this ferocious, fearsome puncher. And then suddenly, he decides that he abruptly retires after the loss to Jimmy Young, I believe. Almost 10 years out of the game. He's a preacher. He has these endorsement deals. And then suddenly he's like, yeah, I'll get back into it. And to win the heavyweight championship again against Michael Moore and just like go, obviously everybody's like reflecting on his career and stuff like that after his passing. And just to hear the Jim Lampley story about like how the whole time, like leading up to the fight against Moore, Lampley's like, how are you going to do this? Moore, he was like, I think he was like 35-0, 26 knockouts, and, southpaw that can move. And like, he's like, how are you going to do it? And then, or like Lampley, like whenever they were doing HBO broadcasts together, he would ask Foreman, like, how are you going to do this? And then Foreman would go, oh, just you wait. At some point, he's going to give me a chance to knock him out, and I'm going to do it. And, it all sounds cliche, for again, first 9 rounds, like Moore is just boxing his face off, and it looked about what you would expect for a 45-year-old fighting a heavyweight champion in his prime. And then sure enough, Moore did exactly what Foreman predicted. And that's why the iconic, like it happened. For Jim Lampley to say something like so convincingly is his favorite call, like that's that's pretty crazy. And yeah, man, to have like two different careers and just to be that that historic is just crazy. You're never gonna see it again.
Yeah, and with his tenure, his you like you said, it's two different careers and they're kind of defined in two separate ways.
Hmm.
The 70s, you could arguably say outside of Ernie Shavers, George Foreman was the most feared puncher in heavyweight
Oh, for
boxing.
sure.
Like, what he did to Joe Frazier, everybody knows the call down goes Frazier, second
Yeah.
round TKO, something that
Dropped him six
no,
times.
no one ever did that to Joe Frazier at the time.
Yeah.
What he did to
Hmm.
Ken Norton right before the Muhammad Ali fight. Again, just the lights out power that he had was, something that we really didn't see, at the
Hmm.
top level of heavyweight boxing at the time. And then obviously we think about the clip right before Muhammad Ali's fight in the Rumble in the Jungle, and you see his team so terrified of getting in the ring with George Foreman. It just shows you how you know he was one of a kind in the way he boxed, in the way that he presented himself, everything. There was just such a fear factor with him.
Hmm.
And, that's just one part of his career. Fast forward, comes back in, 1987 at nearly 38 years old, almost turning 39. And you think about that career, and it's almost like the way that he took care of his body, the health he made, he made it possible to fight into your late 30s, early 40s. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Changed his game up a lot differently. He instead of being a lot of a real pressure fighter, real pouncing on you and stuff, he really started becoming real selective with the shots, played to his strengths, which was he still had the power and he still had, you know, veteran gamemanship at that point. Really
Mhm.
was good with throwing down the middle. He had those quick straight line shots. Obviously, you've seen it with Michael Moore when he won the heavyweight title, and also just making history, becoming the oldest heavyweight champion in history. You know what I mean?
He still is.
Before Bernard Hopkins became the alien, and everybody had known him as the old man champion. George Foreman was that guy. You know, he really paved the way for boxers to really kind of take a chance on themselves and kind of really push the boundaries when it came to the later part of their career. So, I mean, I obviously he's one of the greatest, not only heavyweights but greatest boxers of all time. But in terms of heavyweights, where do you rank him on the all-time list?
Oh, jeez, put me on the spot, why don't you? Ooh, ooh. He's definitely probably for sure top 10. I'd
Top
have to
10.
like actually like go like make an actual list. Obviously, I think Ali, Joe Lewis, you
Yeah.
got like Rocky Marciano, um, and then
It's
Joe Frazier. You got like
it's
Floyd Patterson's up
I feel like it's
there.
hard. I feel like it's hard. He's on the
Yeah,
list, but it's hard to decipher if he's in the top 5 or he's
yeah,
kind of barely in the top 10. Just because
yeah,
heavyweight boxing is so
yeah.
rich. It's so rich, the history of
Mhm.
it.
You got Vladimir
Um,
Klitschko too up there.
yeah. I mean,
Tough
yeah. I
list.
mean, even like even if we're talking modern day, Alexander Usyk could probably
Mhm.
reach that list
Yeah,
in about a year or so, or maybe a win or so.
he might already be
So
there.
yeah, I mean, he's done something that has been done in over 30 years, which is
Mhm.
be undisputed at heavyweight.
Yeah, and
But
then that's in a Holyfield. Evander Holyfield's up there for sure.
I would say
Yeah.
I would say Big George Foreman is definitely solidified in the top 10, not only based off his resume, which is already stellar as it is, but his cultural impact too. You know,
Mhm.
his name kind of transcends boxing. I mean, obviously his ministry work, but also, you know, entrepreneurship with the George Foreman Grill
Grill.
and
Mhm.
kind of his health advocacy. Again, like I said, paved the way for older boxers to kind of take a chance on themselves, you know, in the
Mhm.
later part of their career. So I definitely think he's in the top 10 solidified. I would say towards 6 to 10, not top
Yeah,
five,
I
just
think that's
because
fair.
like when you think about the top 5 list, there's a few guys ahead of him. I can name a few guys ahead of him that
Mhm.
really deserve that, but guaranteed one of the greatest heavyweights of all time, man.
Yeah. No, rest in peace to him. He's a legend. And to also like one more thing I forgot, like the same he wore the same trunks against Michael Moore that he wore against Muhammad Ali in the Rumble in the Jungle and like
That is
literally like
crazy.
exercise those demons. That's
That is crazy.
you
You know
couldn't
what I
write it
mean?
any better. You can't
Yeah.
script that.
Yeah, so rest in peace to Big George Foreman. Definitely, you know, the biggest headline um this past weekend in boxing. The biggest fight this past weekend in boxing obviously came from PBC. It was a free Amazon Prime card. It wasn't free. You had to get a subscription, of course, but
Yeah, but not pay-per-view. So
Sebastian
thank God.
Fundora, man. Sebastian Fundora stopped Chordell Booker in the fourth round via TKO, I believe, retains the unified WBO and WBC junior middleweight titles. Nate, a year ago, Sebastian Fundora, I think a year ago to this date, Sebastian Fundora beat Tim Tszyu, upsetting him to win those unified titles. And a year later, he kind of has a similar game plan, using his reach, but kind of implementing his power a lot more. A traditional Sebastian Fundora fight we
Mhm.
saw. Um, what'd you think of his performance, or what'd you think of the result?
I mean, it's what you expected, Got Trudell Booker. I mean, no disrespect to him or anything, but like he hadn't really like done anything to earn a title shot. Just to be frank, it was just one of those, just typical like some of those defenses in boxing. First title defense, get one under your belt, and I mean, once he started to ramp up the pressure, that was pretty much it. Like he got Booker out of there. I mean, to be expected, and I guess fighters, and obviously Fundora still deserves credit. He could have easily like looked past him, but he handled his business, did what he had to do, and he's the only unified champion in a stacked 154-pound division. I'm ready to see how he stacks up against the top guys in the division.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, like I said last year when he beat Tim Tszyu, you could have made the argument that he was the best boxer at 154. Obviously, the only one with multiple title belts in that division. But in that time, obviously, Terrence Crawford came up, beat Israel Madrimov. Virgil Ortiz beat Israel Madrimov as well. A lot of champions, in that division that have the perception, the picture, the dynamic of 154 is very different. But after this past win against Troy Booker, is Sebastian Fundora the best junior middleweight?
Ooh, that's a tough. I would say, but even then, like his win over Tim Tszyu, like that fight could have won either way. Still, I mean, a win's a win.
Yeah,
You can't really.
I mean,
I would still pick. Go
you
ahead.
could say there's a lot of asterisks. Obviously that cut from Tim Tszyu in round two
Yeah,
really changed the dynamic of that
yeah,
fight because
because
you
Zoo
could
was
have
lighting
said,
him up. Zoo was
yeah.
lighting his ass up.
So I mean, but yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
I
where would you rank him though right now?
I'd probably go third
Third,
behind Virgil Ortiz and Murtazaliev.
Virgil Ortiz and Murtazalia.
Obviously,
Okay,
he's only unified champion. But if we're going like how they would like match up in a fight, I would
yeah.
probably pick those two over him.
So where would you
I
put
would pick
Terrence
those two.
Crawford?
Well, I'm kind of like not including him on the list because he's going up to
Just because,
168 and he's going to
and he's
fight Canelo, and
probably,
that's probably going
and
to be
he's
his
not
last
coming
fight.
back.
He's not coming
Yeah.
back. So I mean, if Crawford, he'd be fourth if I'm including Crawford. But yeah,
Okay.
154 is stacked too. Like, there's no
I
shame
would.
in being third or fourth in that division. And I
Yeah.
think like anyone could beat any. Like, it could be if they do like a round robin thing. Like, everybody's
Yeah.
record's going to be different against each other.
Yeah. I think about it, right? And I think that outside of heavyweight, and you could possibly say even junior welterweight, 154 is the toughest division.
I think
I
it's better
think.
than 140.
You think so?
I think it might be better than
I would
heavyweight.
say there's
I
there's a
think it's
debate.
right up
I
there.
don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know about that because I think the saying is always when the heavyweight division is thriving, boxing's thriving, and the heavyweight
Mhm.
division is very tough. And there's a new wave of contenders coming up as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That are also exciting. That are also kind of like becoming blockbuster names. So I can't
Yeah.
really say that. But man, junior middleweight is really
Yeah.
good. I would say Sebastian Fundora. I would say he's probably, if I'm looking at the rankings right now, which I will probably do right now, and I'm looking at him, and I would say he's probably 3 or 4 because I would have Bakram Murdazaliev as number one, Virgil Ortiz is number two, and then it's a toss up between him and Israel Madrimov because despite Madrimov having 2 straight losses, he had him against the best in the division.
Yeah.
So I can't
Mhm.
really fault him for that. But speaking of Bakram Murdazaliev, he called his shot after Fondora's win, calling him out. But another guy that is expected to call him out is Mr. Xander Zayas because he has been recently been named the WBO mandatory for the 154-pound title. Who do you think is next, Xander or Bakram?
Well, boxing politics would probably lean towards Bakram Murtazaliev just because like Tim Tszyu is also under the PBC banner, and like Murtazaliev fought him, and Xander Zayas with top rank. Plus, they've been bringing along Xander Zayas like very slowly. Like it would be, I I can't remember the name of the guy he fought last time, which is in a way telling. But like, do you really want to go from that to Sebastian Fundora? And like, it would be one thing if like Fundora's like like some like feather fisted stick and move guy. Throw him in there. If he loses, he can rebuild himself. Dude, Fundora like does damage. Like, we remember Erickson Lubin's face at the at
I
the
don't
end of
want
that
to talk
fight.
about it, man.
Yeah, I
That
know we
was
don't
that
want
was
to talk
heartbreaking
about it,
because
but
being from Orlando, that was a
yeah,
heartbreaking
it was.
performance.
But that's the kind of damage that like Fundora can do, and like if Zayas isn't ready, like his like it could be done like that. So if I would probably bank on Murtazaliev because you can then have 3 of the 4 belts, and then like Terrence is gonna vacate his belt, which would, I mean, looking at WBA rankings, like Joannes Tellez has an interim belt, so he'd probably fight. I mean, Abas Barao is the number 1 contender in that division. Jesus Ramos is number 4. Erickson Lubin has a fight coming up on May 10th against Andrea Holmes. So, I mean, yeah, I
Yeah,
would probably go back and try to unify the division, just get one
yeah,
step closer to that. If I'm Fundora, that may be the tougher fight, but I think like ideally, if you're managing both guys, if I'm Zayas, I'm not going. I'm not trying to
yeah.
enforce that mandatory right now.
The thing is with Bakram is not with PBC. He's like kind of like a
Yeah,
free agent, so he can really
yeah,
go anywhere. I would
yeah.
say this. I would say more likely, I think Xander Zayas. The WBO is gonna push for that, and if that fight is not made, I have a feeling that they would force Fundora to vacate. I think that's gonna be
Mm.
the possibility. I think that that would be a sexy matchup. And when we were at Orlando back in October for the PBC's first card, one of their first cards that were
Mhm.
free, I took a picture with Xander Zayas and I asked him. I said, when are we gonna see you fight for a world title? And he said, probably next year. Well, it's 2025 now,
Mhm.
and the opportunity is here. There's 120 days to make this fight happen. So if they don't do that, there's a chance that there might be some disciplinary action by the WBO. On
Yeah.
the flip side, man, a fight between Sebastian Fundora and Bakram Murtazaliev is kind of exciting to me.
Very exciting.
Two
Mhm.
long junior middleweights. Obviously, Sebastian Fundora is the longer guy, but Bakram
Yeah.
Murtazaliev, the way that he's able to generate power and throw
Mhm.
at a high volume, it's like he catches guys at the end of his shots, and they're
Yeah.
so swift and so quick. The
Mhm.
follow through is crazy. It would be interesting because we know that Fundora not the best defensively, especially when it
No.
comes to kind of keeping his head on the center line. He
Yeah.
stays on the center line,
Yeah.
so
He's
it'd be
6'6"
interesting.
and uses like none of it. He likes to
He's
fight on the inside and
he's
bang.
6'6" and fights like he's 5'6"
Yeah.
most of the time. So like, yeah, he's that would be an interesting matchup.
Mhm.
Both of them would be very interesting, but I have a feeling that the Xander Zayas fight might be pushed more by the WBO organization. But
Yeah.
it's a win is a win. You know what I mean? A win
Oh,
is a
for sure.
win.
Yeah.
But listen, man, it wasn't a one fight card because there was a couple prospects that also fought on the main card. Jesus Ramos and Elijah Garcia both got the win in different fashion. Jesus Ramos dominated, his opponent, and Elijah Garcia, man, a split decision win against Terrell Gache, man, a real
Ooh.
tough veteran, but a guy that most people would have thought Garcia should have handled pretty handily. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um, let's start with Jesus Ramos first because he's a guy that should be ranked higher at 154. But
Mhm.
with that loss against Erickson Lubin, that kind of halted that momentum. But
Yeah.
he's back on track now.
For sure. Yeah. No, I mean, it's another one of those things. I think he's very much in the mix at 154. Like if he was able to get a title shot, like he's one of the guys that like he deserves it. Like
Yeah.
he's really good. He does everything offensively. He goes to the body. He can fight on the inside. He can fight at range. He's very impressive. And he does similar to Fundora. Like it was a fight that was made for him to win, and he handled his business and did what he had to do, and hopefully he can keep on moving up and get a big fight at 154. And it's also like one of the crazier things in boxing where it's like if he gets that decision against Lubin, like would he have gotten a title shot already?
I
I
don't know.
don't I don't know.
I don't know because you look at where Erickson Lubin's at. He's about to fight for the first time since that fight.
Hmm.
Um, and he's fighting on Pro Box.
Yeah,
It's just again, we're talking about a division that's so stacked that
yeah,
there's more exciting matchups with more money at stake to be made, and it kind of
hmm,
pushes guys like Erickson Lubin, Jesus Ramos, Charles Conwell, all those guys who are real contenders as well. It kind
hmm,
of pushes them to the side just because they're not generating as much buzz. But
yeah,
overall, I think eventually, he's ranked in the top five of WBA, I believe, and another
yeah,
sanctioning body. So it's like,
hmm,
it's bound to happen. Once he becomes a mandatory, it's bound to happen.
yeah,
Elijah Garcia, though, a
hmm,
real. We're kind of seeing a crossroads with him because it
yeah,
wasn't too long ago he was known as like an up and coming contender at middleweight, and then obviously the Kyron Davis fight this last summer kind of halted all that momentum.
hmm,
And then obviously this split decision win against Terrell Gache, which
yeah,
should have been, again, like I'm saying, should have been a fight where he
yeah.
really
It was made for him to get
really
back on track.
yeah, really got back on track. But yeah, so what do you think it is? Do you think that, he was overhyped, or do you think the level of competition is kind of just starting to get a little tougher?
Both. He was pretty much overhyped, and he just defensively, he doesn't have like he doesn't move his head enough. He's like an old phrase from Teddy Alyas, like he's harder to miss than he is to hit, and it's just not, and just, Gaucher, he's good, but like if you're like really like that guy that can like ascend the ranks, especially at 160, which isn't, not the most crowded division, like, you're a couple wins, like if you're really that good, you're a couple wins away from, potentially like being in, getting a title shot. And he just hasn't. I mean, he got outlanded, what, 189 to 154, and like, yeah, that was a. I mean, Gaucher is just, the classic, boxing politics. Ended up, A side ended up getting the benefit of the doubt, and
Yeah.
yeah, I
I
don't think
mean, yeah.
he's got a long way to go before he lives up to the hype. Which, I mean, he can
Yeah.
still get there for sure. What?
Yeah. I
How?
mean, here's the thing. He's only 21. That's the thing.
Yeah,
He's
he's
only
got
21.
plenty of time.
So we'll see.
But
But you just gotta kind of like Top Rank does. You gotta manage his career
yeah, you definitely take a
carefully at this
step back.
point.
You take a couple steps backwards to go forward. And he's 21 years old. He has plenty of time to,
Yeah.
whether it's,
You don't want
improving
to
with
be
his
like
training.
you don't want to be like guys like Erickson Lubin who haven't reached their 30s yet, and it feels like he's been in the game forever. You don't want to
Hmm.
feel like you want to feel like he's an old man in the game just yet.
Yeah,
So I would
yeah,
just say take a step back in the
yeah.
moment.
Maybe.
But yeah, it is what it is, man. But listen, it wasn't just PBC that had a card Saturday night because Pro Box. When I tell you that Pro Box puts on some of the most underrated cards, I'm telling you because this
Yeah.
man Lester Martinez, what he did to Joe Sean James, bro, I would say this man needs to be in the top 10 at super middleweight, bro. Like
Hmm.
he needs to be consensus top 10 because the beautiful knockdown that he had in round 3, I thought that was the fight. I thought Joe Sean was out cold, but he managed to get up like a tough guy. But dude, this this one was I mean, this was an
Yeah.
impressive performance by Lester Martinez, man. What do you
Hmm.
think about his performance?
I mean, he is very much like up there, like and in the mix at 168. And that's another pretty good division. Obviously, it's kind of what William Skull Canelo kind of has that division on hold. He's going to unify again, but he should very much like be up there if like the Christian and Billy's, Diego Pacheco, Munguia, Berlanga. Like he's very
Osley
much
Iglesias?
José Iglesias. Like he is very much up there, and I would hopefully he can get a good like step up in a competition with his next fight. 'Cause he is the goods, and
Yeah.
whether it's maybe a Sulecki, maybe a Derevyanchenko, like or maybe
Ooh.
like an Eric Bazinian, like one of
Ooh,
the
that would
one of those
I think that would
three
be a
would
good
be
fight.
one of those three would be great for him because it's a step up in competition, but one where it's like if he's really like that good, like he should be able to get the job done. And
Yeah.
it's a good crossroads fight for everybody involved.
Yeah, because he's such a dangerous puncher and such a good pressure fighter. I kind of want
Hmm.
to see him against a slicker boxer, maybe a guy
Yeah.
like Vladimir Shishkin.
Hmm.
I want to see the contrast in style, see how he handles that. But he's somebody that I
Keep
think
your eye
should
on
get
him.
a lot of limelight. And you want to know something about 168? We're kind of in the phase now, outside of Canelo Alvarez and maybe Caleb Plant. We're in this phase where the contenders are kind of under the radar, but they're
Hmm.
super tough. Like we're talking
Oh yeah.
Pacheco and Billy Iglesias, Sararse.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
mean, let's just put
Munguia.
William Skull in there as well
I mean, he's
because
got a belt.
he's
He's he
he's
does
the
have a belt.
IBF champion. So, but all those guys, they're not household names, but boy, the
Hmm.
quality, they're world class. They're literally
Yeah.
world class. So like, it's an interesting time at super middleweight,
Yeah.
and Lester Martinez, he's definitely going to make his name, in that division. And dude, I'm telling you, Pro Box, knock on wood, in May when we go to that card.
I don't
Oh
have any wood around me.
my gosh, it's going to be great. But
Yeah. Hopefully, please, please,
but dude,
please. Just send that to them, like for my credential request. Just like the 10-second clip.
dude, oh
Uh,
yeah, I'm gonna pray, dude. I'm gonna pray we get those credentials together. But dude, so
yeah.
Saturday night was filled with boxing, but Saturday morning we also started with boxing because this man George Kambosos over in Australia defeated Jake Wiley by unanimous decision. Jake Wiley, who came into the fight on 5 days' notice, national Australian boxing champion. In the beginning rounds, it looked like Kambosos was just going to outclass him. The speed, the pop on his punches, the movement. It looked like it was just kind of too much for Jake Wiley in the moment. But then you saw in the starting at round 5, it seemed like Jake Wiley started to figure out Kambosos, because Kambosos really sticks to one game plan, one movement. He really fights one style against everybody.
Yeah.
So it took a few rounds for Jake Wiley to really figure him out, and then he started piecing him up. He started making it a real barber of a fight.
He cut him.
Uh, cut him bad, but that was a headbutt. That was a headbutt.
Oh, yeah, I knew. That's what I said. Yeah,
You didn't hear me. That's
that's
what I
that's what I
said. I
meant by
said it
cut
was
him.
a
Yeah.
headbutt. But dude, a lot of people were despite this being a Kambosos win, and it was a clear Kambosos win, just because he outboxed him, even though it was a barn burner of a fight. Kambosos outboxed him for the majority of it, but Jake Wiley proved that he could be at world level. On 5 days' notice, he really showed a lot of grit and a lot of heart, something that Kambosos kind of lacked, maybe because he was not motivated by this last minute replacement.
Yeah.
But Jake Wiley had the more heart, more of the grit, and he really made it a gritty performance towards the end rounds. So like rounds 10 through 11, it was really gritty. Um, where does this win though put George Kambosos?
Oh, well, it's no secret what they're pivoting towards. They wanted to make the fight against Richardson Hitchens, which I think is kind of asinine. Like, no disrespect to Cambosis, but like he hasn't done anything at 140 to warrant a title shot. Dude, Super Matias is the number one contender at
He's the
140,
mandatory.
and he should, yeah, that should easily be what's next for Richardson Hitchens. But I mean, obviously Cambosis, he did his thing. I mean, that's kind of like that's how he wins. You know, he's a gritty guy. He's gonna push the pace. Try to outbox you. And obviously the opponent changed. And Wiley was still training for a fight, so he wasn't like completely out of. It wasn't like your last replacement guy got off the couch and fought. But
Yeah, but it was like
yeah,
he's going up from a regional fight to a
yeah,
world
it
class
should
fight.
have
Well,
been a
this is a
huge
former
step
world
up.
champion. Yeah, so
Yeah,
I
but
mean, I would say this: George Kambosos has the best managed career in recent
for sure,
history. The way that
absolutely.
he's been able to get title fights, the way that he's been able to negotiate location, like the
Mhm.
negotiation process for him versus Devin Haney was super genius on their part.
Yeah.
Having the fights in Australia, both fights, um, even when he got dominated the first fight, to have Haney fly back to Australia for the rematch
Hmm.
is crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was his first fight at 140, George
Yeah.
Kambosos.
First since the
And
loss to Lomachenko.
yeah, the
Two.
and the thing is that the commentators were talking about, oh, how is the power going to translate up a
He's
weight class?
never really
And I'm
had
thinking
much power.
that's what I was gonna say. I was thinking to myself, what power are you talking about? Because when have we ever said, oh, Kambosos out clean? Kambosos knocks him out clean. I've never said that. And like you could tell too, in this fight against Jake Wiley, Kambosos hit him with some real clean shots, clean shots, and Wiley just walked through him.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's pretty
and they
telling.
keep talking. They're like, yeah, man, his power, he's gaining. He's a lot stronger at 140. Where, where he seems like the
Yeah.
same fighter, which is fine. That's how
Yeah.
George Kambosos
He's
is.
solid. He's solid.
He's not a power puncher. He's never
Hmm.
been one. He's a guy who relies on volume. He relies on being a boxer puncher.
Hmm.
Making it a dirtier fight. Not a dirtier fight, but a grittier fight.
Yeah. He's gonna try to
So
outlast you.
yeah, I mean, this win, was it impressive? I mean, he did what he had to do. He outboxed the man. I
Yeah.
mean, did people expect him to stop him? I mean, if you're a
Mm,
boxing casual, yeah, you're probably able to should have stopped him. I mean, Shakur Stevenson stopped Josh Padley last minute,
yeah.
and Shakur has zero hands.
He's brittle
He,
hands.
his
Yeah.
his hands are broken. George Kambosos, not to my knowledge, healthy hands. So I don't know, but like you mentioned before, like you mentioned right before this, Richardson Hitchens is expected to be next, and that fight is supposed to be for June.
June 21st
Um,
in New York is what
that's
I
why I
believe
said you
Eddie
didn't hear
Hearn.
me.
Yeah.
That's why I said you didn't hear me. I said Eddie Hearn said that. That's what I said.
Yeah. No, I heard
Um,
you.
what do you think about this matchup? I'm not saying if you agree or disagree. What do you think stylistically for this matchup for George Kambosos? Because George Kambosos said, "Oh, Richardson Hitchens is not a tenth of what Devin Haney is. He's I'm gonna walk through him.
I mean, Maxie Hughes was able to outbox him. So, and he was on the wrong end of a decision. So, if he's, I mean, no disrespect to, I feel like I've been saying that a lot this podcast. No disrespect to Maxie Hughes, but I if Hughes can do that, Hitchens, Jesus Christ, Hitchens should be able to as well.
Dude, all I'm saying is this. All I'm saying is Richardson Hitchens has a style that George Kambosos struggles with, which is
Mhm.
moving, fighting behind your jab, moving constantly, and really just making you second guess.
Mhm.
He's always feinting, always moving, and always throwing a jab. You know what I mean? He's
Yeah,
slick. He's a slick
and
boxer. And
that's
George
everything
Kambosos,
Campos had problems with.
and the thing about George Kambosos is that when he fights slick boxers, he tries to turn into a slick boxer, which is like
Mhm.
really disgusting to watch. No offense. It's really disgusting. Like when the first fight against Devin Haney, I was looking at George Kambosos. I was like, who told you to do this game plan? Who told you to fight at range? Who told you to just wait for shots? Like that's
Yeah,
not how you win. Like the best version of George Kambosos is obviously when he fought Teofimo Lopez and he was fighting on the inside.
yeah, he pushed the pace and took it to a diminished Tiafimo, according to
Let's
him.
let's not
Okay.
let's not discredit that win. Let's not discredit that win
Okay.
because it feels like we've been discrediting him this whole show. Let's not
Yeah.
discredit that win because he beat him pushing the pace, changing levels, targeting the
Mhm.
body. I
Yeah.
feel like if he wants to put himself in the best chance to win, he has to fight like that because Richardson Hitchens, he can't act unlike Teofimo. Richardson Hitchens has trouble with that. I mean, if you look at his fight with Gustavo Lemos, that fight could have been a robbery to people. Like
Mhm.
that, he was on the right side of the decision, and Lemos did exactly that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I
He did
mean,
exactly that.
yeah, maybe I'm being a little too maybe discrediting Cambosis too much, but I just
Just a little bit.
it's one of those things where it's like, like don't get me wrong, the win against Teofimo was great, but it's like he's like made so much like just off of that one win to where it's kind of like I get it, but like he's got to get like another big win to earn something, you know?
It's hard. It's
That's
hard
my
because
but that's how boxing goes sometimes.
like if okay, I'm about to search him up. I'm about to search up his resume since the Teofimo win because
Yeah, dude, he's got 2 wins. We've talked
Maxie
about
Hughes, Jake
Jake
Wiley,
Wiley, and that's gonna get him a shot at Richardson Hitchens.
and outside of Devin Haney, the last other fight he fought a world class fighter was Vasily Lomachenko.
Lomachenko, yeah, that was a you don't even
Wait, let me
yeah.
tell you something. So okay, so George Kambosos has fought since 2022. George Kambosos has fought 4 times in Australia, and he's 1-3.
Yeah.
Go fight in Vegas.
Yeah,
Go
well,
fight in Vegas.
this is gonna be in New York, and New York is where he
Go.
beat Teofimo. Maybe he'll find some good luck there.
Oh man, just don't fight in your home country anymore. It's not. It's not been the
Yeah,
best for you.
like no
But
no home
oh
field
my
advantage for
gosh,
him.
dude, that's like a home. That's like enemy territory at this point.
Yeah,
Luckily, he fought Jake Wiley. I mean, shout
yeah.
out to Jake
And
Wiley
he
though,
got a
because
contract with. He's gonna get a contract with Matchroom after that.
yeah,
So good on him,
shot,
and good on
yeah,
Matchroom too for taking care of like. But they did the same thing with Padley. They signed
yeah.
him after he fought Shakur.
And you know what's crazy is I saw a press conference with Eddie Hearn, and he was talking about, in Australia, the regional scene, it's impossible to make a living as a boxer. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? The UK and the US is very blessed that once you become pro, um, the promoters kind of take care of you, and you're able to make a living. But like in
Yeah,
Australia, it's not like that. Like he was talking about, he saw the paychecks for these Australian boxers, and he was like, "Dude, if I was paying my fighters like that, my company would be worth 10 times more than it's worth right now."
hmm,
Like, so hopefully, Australian boxing gets the attention and recognition it deserves because a lot of top guys come from there.
yeah. It feels like
So
more and more are starting to come from Australia and the New
exactly,
Zealand area. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. One of them was on this card in the George Kambosos card, but she lost her world title. I'm talking about Sky Nicholson because she lost to Tiara Brown and Tiara Brown is now the WBC featherweight champion. Wow. When we talk about, you know, defying the odds, being the B side fighter, you know, Tiara Brown was that.
Hmm.
She is that. She didn't get any handouts, and she fought a real tough performance. She fought the right fight against a girl like Sky Nicholson, who fights very similar to Shakur, kind of fights at range, in and out of range, very defensive, tries to neutralize your real, like your offense, your game plan. But Tierra Brown, bro, just
Hmm.
disrupting it. And dude, at 36 years old, to win a world title at that age, you know, you just
First
defied the
world title,
odds.
right?
Yeah, the first
Yeah,
world
first
title.
world
And you
title.
want to know
That's
what's crazy is, she's I think, honestly, I think she might be an overtime boxing fighter. That's a world champion under their belt.
mhm.
You
That's
know what I mean?
solid for them if she is a part of them. Uh,
Yeah, I think she is, but I'll tell you what. You know who it's not
Florida
good
native
for?
too.
Yes, Florida native. I forget what part of Florida, but uh, she is a Florida. Oh, Fort Myers. She's from Fort Myers.
Yes,
That's where
born
she's
in
from.
Fort Myers,
Fort
Lehigh
Myers. But
Acres, Florida.
yeah.
Where is that?
But
It's
you want to know
box
something?
access.
Eddie Hearn, he
Oh
has to
God.
be he has to be in a manic state, because like it seems like every single one of his fighters is losing at the worst possible time. All of this is
Yeah.
kind of crumbling down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I
Not
feel
great.
I feel terrible for him. I think the demise started at that Matchroom versus Queensberry 5-on-5. I think
Oh,
that's
that
where the
was.
demise started, because
I'm
he went
surprised
0
he
and 5.
survived that.
He went 0 for 5. Well, we thought he did, and then fast forward to August, Anthony Joshua versus Daniel Dubois.
September. Yeah, that's what he said.
You
My
didn't hear
bad.
me. That's what I said.
My
I
bad.
said I
Yeah.
said September. That's what I said. You didn't hear me. But Anthony Joshua versus Daniel Dubois, and he gets starched. He gets starched.
God, that might be the worst game plan I've ever seen. For oh, not the worst, but I
It's
couldn't
not the
believe how
worst.
Anthony Joshua fought him.
Well, you gotta think he was on a freaking high. He just knocked out
If,
Valine and
and then
Francis
Ganu.
Ngannou. He was on
Yeah,
a high. He was on
looking
cloud nine.
back,
He was on well. I, Looking back, because I thought the Valine win was great, and then
I
Otto
thought he
Valine
was
lost to Derek.
reborn.
Yeah, and then I thought, and then Otto Valine lost to Derek Chisora, and I was like,
I was
maybe
like,
Valine's just falling off.
yeah, maybe
You
Joshua should
know?
have stopped him in 3, instead of 5 or 6 or whenever it was.
Yeah, yeah. You didn't hear me. That's what I said. He should have stopped
Yeah,
in that many rounds.
yeah, yeah.
But
Maybe
yeah,
maybe you should have
he's
stopped him quicker than Ngannou.
dude. But here's the thing. It's getting to the point where I'm like, dude, Eddie Hearn. If Conor Ben doesn't beat Chris Eubank Jr., this man is gonna go insane.
Yeah,
You know what I
that
mean?
would be
If he loses to a Ben Shalom boxer, I think that would be the end
that
of
might
his confidence,
that might expedite his retirement swiftly.
dude.
Uh,
Because
but no,
it's
he's
one
good.
thing
He's
to
great for boxing though. I love
yeah,
Eddie Hearn.
I do too. I love him so much, but it's one thing to lose to Frank Warren, right? It's another
Yeah,
thing to lose to freaking Eddie Hearn. Not Eddie
er,
Hearn, Ben
that's
Shalom.
that's what you said. Yeah, that's what you
That's what
said.
I said. You didn't hear me. That's what I
We've
said.
had like 8 of those this podcast.
Hey, but it's made for freaking
Yeah,
good
comedic
television. But
relief. Yeah.
oh my gosh.
Yeah,
But
this
yeah,
dog is
dude.
sitting right on my foot.
I'm trying. Dude, did
Big
I
nipple too.
for real?
I'm being
Dude,
dead
that's
ass.
funny. So I think that was all the boxing fights that we need to talk about, right?
I
I'm pretty
believe
sure.
so. Yeah, I'm trying. Nothing. I am very like I what? Yeah, my brain's not functioning right now. But
It's
yeah.
okay. That's okay. All right. So if that's all we have to talk about, we're gonna do a little game before we go here,
Mm.
man. We're gonna blind rank. Love blind rankings, huh? We love
Oh,
blind
for sure.
rankings.
Yeah,
So
I can't profess my love for blind rankings
I
enough
know,
after that.
I know.
After that last time we did them.
After you talked about your favorite fighter, Adrian Bruno, yes, I know.
Yeah,
We don't even have to
yeah.
mention it.
And
But
when was the last time he fought at 140 pounds?
yeah, let's talk about this blind ranking though for right now, because we're gonna blind rank 5 boxers for two opponents, or for two fighters that fought over the weekend. Now, for me, I'm gonna talk for you, Nate, because we're gonna blind rank 5 opponents for Sebastian Fundora, the unified WBO and WBC junior middleweight champion. Are you
Hmm.
ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So the first guy we have is one of the guys that we talked about already, Mr. Xander Zayas.
Ooh. How many are we doing? 3 or 5?
5.
Ooh, I would put him. I'm gonna put him
WBO
4.
mandatory Sanders
I
Ayas.
know. Uh, I he remember. Yeah, I'll put him 4.
4? Okay. That's fair. That's fair. I would have had him higher, but I understand. All
Hmm.
right. Next guy we have is the current IBF junior middleweight champion, Bakram Murtazaliev,
I'll go number 2.
number 2. All right. All right. That's interesting. I would have had him 1 just because I think Murtazaliev is the boogeyman at 154. I honestly
Yeah.
think so.
I
I
mean,
think
there's a
he
fight
is.
that I want to see though. That yeah.
Uh, well, it might be
And,
this
and
next one I'm about to
hopefully
say.
he's on. Hopefully he's on the list and not
It might be this. It might be this next one that I'm talking about because number 3 I got Virgil Ortiz Jr.
number 1.
Okay, that's the number
Yeah,
1.
that was yeah.
Do you think? Okay, so how do you think that fight goes though?
I would probably pick Ortiz by late stoppage. I think his body work. I mean, as long as he's defensively responsible and doesn't get clipped too much. But Ortiz is underrated defensively. Like he's
You know
pretty
what?
like
I thought that too because when the fight against Israel Majimov, I didn't real. It made me realize how smart Virgil Ortiz is, especially when
yeah,
it comes to opening up the body. The way that
yeah,
he was feinting and faking
yeah.
Israel Majimov out to get to the midsection,
Hmm.
impressive. It was
Super
very
impressive.
impressive.
Or like when he acted like he was gonna pull the glove down, then he went to the body off of that.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's
Mm-hmm.
supremely skilled. He's not some like face first brawler or anything. He is a
He, he,
like
he made me a
pressure like boxer puncher.
Virgil Ortiz made me a full believer after that fight
Hmm.
because I thought to myself, I was like, these Golden Boys guys, they've been not groomed, but they've been set up for success.
Hmm.
The way that they've been set up, I
Yeah.
just thought I was like, once they fight a real boxer, a real world class fighter, that's when we'll really figure it out. And
He'd
but
have
Virgil
success with
Ortiz,
anybody. He'd have
yeah,
success.
Virgil Ortiz, real good.
Mhm.
Next guy we have a rematch, Mr. Tim Zoo. And this is
Oh
interesting. This
shoot!
is
Because
interesting because now we're talking about two fight losing streak Tim Zoo, a guy who just got starched by Bakram Murtazaliev.
I'll put him. Oh god, because there's 2 spots left. I
So
would
there's
still
what? There's
rather see
three.
that than
There's
there's 3 and 5.
okay.
Um, I'll go. Oh god, I'll go number 3.
Okay, three. All
Number
right.
3.
So
Yeah,
I like this matchup. I put Tim Zoo on
I
here
wouldn't
because
hate it. Yeah,
it's interesting now because it's not the same Tim Zoo from last year,
no,
from 1 year
for
ago.
sure.
And we really don't know what Tim Zoo we're gonna get until we see him fight Joey Spencer.
Hmm.
So
And even then,
how
for me, there's still like I'm not gonna
yeah.
think he's all the way back, regardless of how that fight goes.
The question I have now is his punch resistance. How
Yeah.
good is his punch resistance? Because that's what he
Mhm.
was really reliant on. Pushing
Mhm.
forward,
Yeah.
taking 1 to give 3. We'll see.
Mhm. Yeah.
So last guy I have on this list, Errol Spence Jr. Someone who was
That's
supposed to fight or who was
yeah,
supposed to
they're
be in
supposed to fight
negotiations.
twice. Yeah, they're in
Yeah.
negotiations. Yeah. The good
So
old like
5?
freaking they're finalizing a deal only to never finalize a deal. He would be number 5. It's just I
Yeah.
have so many. I'd rather see him like take like the big like a Keith Thurman would be who I'd rather see. Errol Spence.
Like in the
Uh,
not the Berlanga podcast, but
Hey,
the
hey,
last one
stop.
before this, I said that I would rather see Spence fight Keith Thurman, make it a
Hmm.
battle of yesteryear. There'd just be more money in that fight, and that
Yeah,
fight would
and they
be a
can
lot.
cash out and right into the
Yeah,
sunset.
it'd make a lot more sense than Spence fighting a contender
Yeah,
when he
it's
hasn't
Fundora
fought
will.
in. Yeah, but
Fundora would probably mess him up at this point in his career.
yeah,
Because you don't take beatings like the one he took against Crawford and come back the same.
yeah, for
Really,
sure.
rarely. Rarely.
But dude, there's
Mhm.
actually a good list for you. I think that was a solid
Yeah,
list
thank
for
you. I
you.
appreciate it.
So
Yeah.
so let's recap it real quick.
Okay.
So top opponents for Sebastian Fundora. You had number 1 Virgil Ortiz,
Mm-hmm.
number 2
Number
Bakram
2, Marco
Murtazaliev,
Murzalia. Number
number
3,
3
Tim
Tim
Zoo.
Zoo, 4 Xander Zayas, and 5 Errol Spence Jr.
I think that's a solid list. I think that's
I
pretty.
think I
Maybe
think I think
you could swap Zayas and Tim Zoo, maybe.
yeah,
But like,
but I think the narrative with the Tim Zoo thing makes it interesting because people
mm-hmm.
want to see that fight just because
Yeah,
most people thought that Tim Zoo could have won, and if he didn't get cut, Tim Zoo definitely won.
mm-hmm.
So
For sure.
you can say so. Nate, who do you got for me
Okay.
though?
All right. So we are going to be blind ranking George Kambosos, who we talk about. He's coming off the win over Wiley, and yeah. So we got 5 names. And first, Adrian Broner. I'm kidding. All right, I'm kidding. Oh my God. Are you okay?
Oh, no, I'm not okay. Actually, are you
All
okay?
right.
You look like a freaking
I'm
tomato.
I'm good. Look, I'm waiting for you to answer it. No, I'm kidding.
Oh,
We'll go Regis
Regis
Prograde.
Prograde. Oh,
Okay,
that's
yeah,
5. That's 5.
that's 5.
That's
Oh,
number
you're not
5.
good.
That's
You're off
number
to a
5.
rough start.
Dude, oh my gosh. Dude, I'm just saying, like, that matchup is not appealing to me in
yeah,
either
I
point of
don't.
their careers.
It's
Regis
just like
Prograde, dude,
here's the
Regis
thing.
Prograde doesn't even. First off, Regis Prograde has lost like what, 2 in a
Yeah,
row already?
something like
Like
that.
Haney and Catterall. He didn't look good in either of them, and he's kind of on the tail end of his career. And with everybody coming up at 140, it's
Oops.
like the old like guard of contenders like him, Josh Taylor, Jose Ramirez.
Oh, shit.
They're all kind of getting out of the rankings. So
we're gonna go with the matchup that's been rumored. Richardson Hitchens. Where does he rank on your list?
I would say number 2. I think that's the best possible. It's the best opportunity for him, honestly. It's the best opportunity for Richardson Hitchens, or not for Richardson Hitchens, but George Kambosos Jr. I mean, another world title shot for him. His
Best man
third,
in his career.
dude, his fourth actually world title shot in 4 or 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy. So he's number 2.
Okay, I'm gonna go. What about a little backyard brawl?
Him and Liam Paro, that's actually not bad. That'd be interesting. I don't think George Kambosos would do it,
Yeah,
but
I think Pro would outbox him. They probably run
I
into a lot of
definitely
similar problems.
he might, because the thing about Paro, he might not be as slick as like Devin Haney or Richardson Hitchens. He throws a lot though. He throws a
And
lot.
he throws and turns very well.
Yeah.
Or at least he
Just
did
look at
against
what he did. Yeah, look what he did against Subriel Matias.
Super Matias.
I'll put that at number 3.
Number 3? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What, we got 2 more?
Yep.
Okay. All right, here we go. Jermaine Ortiz.
Oh my gosh. Bro.
This might be like the worst fight in boxing history if it ever happened.
This might be like the most like, oh my gosh, this might be the most Don King card main event in history. Jermaine Ortiz versus, this might be a thriller fight, actually. A thriller fight. Jermaine Ortiz versus George Kambosos. I'll put that at 4. Saying that, but not saying because they're not top fighters. I would say it's only because of their style. The matchup, they're not exciting. Neither of them are real exciting. So I'd go for it.
The last one, and this would be number 1. This would be interesting. I went Teofimo Lopez. Number 1.
I think that would be number 1 for me. I would want to see the rematch, especially at this stage in their career. We could really see who like if that first fight was a fluke. Granted, it was 4 years ago, but we can see if that first fight was a fluke because
a chance for Lopez to right that wrong.
Yeah, because Teofimo, the thing with Teofimo is, he hasn't been the same Teofimo since that loss, but I still think of this version of Teofimo is levels above George Kambosos Jr. at any stage of his career.
Yeah. Well, we thought that going into the first fight, and then Kambosos pulled off a huge upset. And he's been banking on it ever since then.
Dude, I know. But he's number 1. So what's my list?
I think your list was Regis Prograis, number 5.
Yeah.
Jermaine Ortiz, number 4. Liam Paro, number 3. Richardson Hitchens, number 2. And then Teofimo Lopez, number 1.
I think that's a perfect list. I think it's a perfect list because
it's just Kambosos is in such a weird spot to even figure out what's going to be his next move.
Dude, yeah, and here's the thing: you want me to interchange 4 and 5, Regis Prograis and Jermaine Ortiz? Like, what do I want to debate about that for? Why would I want to debate that?
You don't want to debate anything.
No, I don't want to.
When it comes to those two,
dude, I would. If I that fight would have the small stands at the Caribe Royale, not even the big stands. That fight would have only ringside.
Yeah, but
So
it would be like how like Turkey said there's gonna be like 300 people at the Times Square card, except that would be all they could sell. Forget it wasn't intentional for there to be that many people.
dude,
Oh
that
God,
fight would be at
that's
Alcatraz, but inside of Alcatraz. We're just
that's gonna be their like daily punishment. Like, you have to
oh
watch it.
man, but
Oh God, they're
I think that
gonna.
was unlike the first time. These were solid lists. These are
Yeah,
solid
I
lists.
mean, where would a Broner have fit on that list for you?
He would probably been like 50th, honestly.
50th? Okay. All right.
50th.
You're number 6 between those people.
No, 50th out of the
50th?
5.
Okay. Fair enough.
There would have been
Valid.
45 other people I would have
Yeah.
rather had than
That
Adrian Broner.
freaking saying Adrian Broner freaking melted my computer.
I would have rather had Blair the Flair than Adrian Broner on this list.
Can you make 140? I don't know.
I
I put
have
like
no
Montana
idea.
Love on the list.
I forgot about him, honestly. I forgot that Montana Love was still fighting. And he got beat by Liam Paro.
Who else could we have put on that list?
I don't know. Let me look at the division real quick.
We can look at some guys at 135 who can move up.
Oh, you could have put Sandor Martin, and he would have been number 6. He would have been number 6 right then and there. But Nate, we're getting to the end of this podcast, man. What a great show. Under an hour, but
not bad.
Overall, what'd you think of this weekend in boxing?
It was good. I think these weekends in boxing are good, where it's maybe like not high profile, but like still like overall like solid fights and guys that you definitely need to pay attention to, like in action. And these are kind of weekends that can help like help fighters grow and like get them the attention they deserve.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're looking forward to next weekend. Friday we have a card in the UK between Pat Brown and Vladimir Rezidnik. That's a matchroom card. I'm kind of looking forward to it. Not really. Michaela Mayer versus Sandy Ryan, unification bout right there. Top rank. Brian Norman Jr. is on that card. Shushu Carrington's on that card. That is on March 29th. IBF World Flyweight Championship fight over in Japan. Angel Ayala versus Masamichi Yabuki. I think that's going to be an interesting card. Yabuki's coming off that stellar win against Sivintani Natshinga. But the fight that everybody is going to be looking at on March 29th is the rematch between William Zepeda versus Tevin Farmer for the interim WBC Lightweight Championship. I think this is going to be interesting, but I think, honestly, that might be a fight that doesn't go the same way the first one did.
Yeah. I mean, I thought Zepeda was going to wipe him out the first fight, and it was a freaking win. He had to go life and death with him. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. Maybe Tevin Farmer can freaking do enough to get or be on the right side of a close decision this time. Who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. And unified strawweight champion also Colosso's also on that card. And Luis Alberto Lopez is also making his return March 29th.
I hope he's okay.
I hope so too. I hope he comes back the same version, but we'll never know. I mean, that was a tough knockout that he suffered against Angelo Leo. And then March 30th, a fight that I'm really looking forward to. It's the rematch for the WBC Strawweight Championship. We're talking about Melvin Jerusalem versus Yudai Shigeoka. That fight, I need to find a VPN for because it's only in Japan. I don't know how to. I'm not in Japan. I don't speak Japanese, so I can't really talk to anybody. But that is going to be a fight that I'm looking forward to. But overall, I think, again, another solid weekend coming up in boxing. But that is all the time we have for today. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Follow my page, The Split Decision Network, on YouTube. Follow it on Instagram at The Split Decision. Follow my boy, Nate. Nate, where can they find you on social media?
Instagram, I think it's Nathaniel _Marrero, Twitter or X, Nate _Marrero, and you can check out Sports Illustrated, see some of the stuff I'm writing on KO and SI.
He has some of the best articles I've seen in boxing today. I mean, we talk about Darren Rayfield, Nate Marrero, and then levels below that, Mike Coppinger.
Okay, wow.
But in all seriousness, check out his articles because they are some of the best, well-constructed articles that I've seen in the sport of boxing. But thank you guys for watching. I'm the TSD Alyas. This is my boy Nate, and we are out.